I need to tell you something. Quite often on this channel I share videos of beautiful days and playful moments, basically happy life with my giant schnauzers Arnie and Sydney. And yes, all of this is true, but there is always another side of this beautiful picture. In the previous episode I already shared key challenges I faced with my first giant schnauzer Arnie when he was a puppy. You can see the video in the link in the description. But in today's video I want to share something more serious. Something what happened with us quite recently. A dominance issue between my two adult male giant schnauzers, Arnie and Sydney, which actually turned into the fight. So if you're thinking about getting two male dogs, especially giant schnauzers, this video could save you a lot of troubles down the road. But before we dive in, let me give you some context. Welcome to the Life with Giant Schnauzers. My name is Maria and I'm just regular dog owner. I got my first puppy Arnie 4 years ago, and honestly at that time I had zero experience raising dogs. Arnie has a strong and confident personality. He is calm, confident and patient, yet undeniably dominant and very strong dog. At 4 years old, his weight is around 50 kilograms and stands around 80 centimeters tall. We had him neutered when he was 1 and 3 months old, but honestly the sterilization didn't change much. Probably he got bigger and got a little bit more fat, but in general I don't see any changes in his behavior. In October 2023, we decided to welcome a second giant schnauzer into our lives, Sydney. Sydney has extremely energetic and emotional, reactive personality. Now Sydney is 1 year and 9 months old. His weight right now around 41 kilograms and stands around 75 centimeters. I believe. We had him nurtured when he turned 1 year and 6 months old. I don't see any visible changes after the sterilization. Their relationships had a rocky start. Arnie isn't naturally playful and he prefers to be somewhere left alone, just has his time to rest. But Sydney is like a little ball of energy, always trying to play, to chase, and constantly trying to engage Arnie with games. Yet, over time, something beautiful happened between these two. They become very close to each other. They learned how to coexist. And all of these early struggles made it worth it. It's always been just play. They versatile, they chase, they seem to have quite a great time with each other. Arnie, being bigger, stronger, would naturally show his dominance when Sydney got too close to crossing the line, but it was never anything serious, just their natural playful characters. But then one day something changed. Sydney had entered his young adult phase. He was getting stronger, more confident, and it was only a matter of time before he started testing boundaries and challenging for his place in the hierarchy. In December 2024, while we were watching movie, sitting on the couch, something quite unusual happened. That wasn't play anymore, it was real fight. My husband and I were managed to quickly separate them, yet if I was alone at that point of time, there is no way I could stop them, honestly. I just didn't expect anything like that. In 4 years, I've never seen Arnie ever acting like this towards anything or anyone. He was never showing such an aggression. The strangest part is that Sydney had always been provoking Arnie. He was always biting him in the past, but Arnie had never reacted to this. He either walked away or just barked at him. We had no idea what exactly happened, why it escalated so suddenly. Then just 1 month later, in January 2025, it happened again. That time I was home alone and it started over the toy. Do you remember? Sydney kept trying to steal a toy from Arnie. He was biting him in his ear, and exactly at that moment Arnie snapped. In the moments like this, they could not hear me. Obviously, they have this adrenaline rush. They were completely locked in. I have no idea how exactly I've managed to do it, but somehow I dragged Arnie by his back paws to the hallway and shoved Sydney into another room. It's okay. So in this madness, they hurt my arm. Nothing serious, but again, such reactions, it just shocked me. Then it happened the third time again, just few days later. And this third time was not about the toy, it was about food. Arnie was not hungry at that moment and he did not finish his meal, so Sydney, as always being curious and himself, tried to approach Arnie's plate. Arnie growled, so clear warning that you cannot come closer, but Sydney pushed his luck and came closer. And then bam! Again, same scenario. My husband and I were nearby at that moment, so we were able quite quickly separate them again. Sydney, being lighter and more submissive, is always easy to manage and handle. I can just grab him and he will stop. But Arnie is a different story. His weight is almost like mine, and trying to stop him in his moments of madness, it can be a serious damage to my body. After observing these situations, I started noticing a pattern. It was not a random thing, it was built up of attention from a specific situation where boundaries were crossed from Sydney's side. The first time it started was play. Arnie, being calm and dominant, would usually tolerate it, but one day Sydney pushed too far. That's when Arnie snapped. For the first time ever, I saw real aggression in Arnie. Then came the issue with food. One morning Arnie was not hungry, so he left some food in his bowl. So Sydney finished his own meal and we're walking towards Arnie. Arnie growled, a clear signal to back off. Sydney paused for a moment, stared at him, and then took a step closer. And bam, again. The third thing happened over a toy. The next moment, when Sydney was trying to grab the toy again, Arnie latched at him. Looking back, I realized what was happening. Sydney was no longer a puppy. He had grown into a young adult, physically stronger and more confident. And Arnie actually could feel it. Their dynamic had shifted and Arnie was no longer seeing Sydney as a playful young puppy. He was seeing him as a potential rival. There are some very helpful videos from professionals that actually explains the dominance issue between male dogs. So if you have this problem or you wanna take a second male dog, please watch these videos. I will leave the links below in the description or in the comments. This experience taught me some important lessons about raising two dominant male dogs, and trust me, this is serious. If you want to have two big male dogs, you need to know the risk. You cannot let them sort out things around dominance on their own. You need to step in immediately, because if they will try to do it on their own, you might have to go to the vet to put some stitches on, because when they fight, something terrible may happen. When Sydney was a puppy, I honestly allowed some level of dominance during the play, but it was never something aggressive from Arnie's side. And I also learned there is a clear, fine line between playful dominance and real aggression. You have to know when to let them figure out things on their own and when you actually need to step in. Food and toys are the most common triggers. Learning how dogs react in these situations will help you to anticipate problems before they actually happen. For these past 2 months, there had been no fights. And obviously there are things we changed. First and the most important one is that I became much more aware of these triggers. I started noticing these subtle signs. I also learned to intervene early when I sensed dominance starting to build up. The third most important part is that I stopped leaving toys out of their free access. Now we only play with toys outside or indoor under our supervision, and when this play session ends, I take toy back with me. No more toys lying around as potential triggers. Feeding time is another big change. I no longer allow them to interrupt each other while they are eating. They each have their own space to finish the meal, and I make sure that they respect these boundaries and do not come closer to each other until they finish. Was it a mistake to get 2 male dogs? Definitely not. So if you are thinking about getting 2 male dogs, especially large dominant breeds like giant schnauzers, make sure you are prepared. Understand the risk, know their instincts and their particular aspects of the character. Be ready to take control when things get intense, and be ready to step in. It is not an easy and quick process, but the bond you will witness between your dogs makes all it worth it. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye. Don't bite me, don't bite me. It's fine. Oh my god. On this, no, Arnie. Quite often, you know, I need to tell you something.